Good evening. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Forest Grove City Council. Will the city recorder please call roll?
Councilor Gust here. Sorry about that. Here. Council President Valenzuela. Here. Councilor Schimmel.
Here.
Councilor Falconer. Here. Councilor Martinez. Here. Councilor Marshall.
Here.
Mayor Wenzel.
Here, Forest Grove City Council meetings are located on the land of the Tualatin Kalapuas, who call themselves the Afalati. They are now part of the Confederate Tribes of Grand Ronde. Will the audience and the council please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item B on our agenda, which is public comment. Time provided for anyone wishing to speak to City Council on an item not on the agenda or on the agenda but not scheduled for a public hearing. Comments are limited to 2 minutes unless additional time is granted by the presiding officer. The public comment period shall not exceed 30 minutes unless a majority of councilors present vote to extend the time. Zoom attendees may use the raise hand option to be called on. Okay, so we're going to start with public comment. We have a couple people signed up for public comment. I would like to first call Miss Christy Kotke.
Hi, Mayor and councilors and staff and community. I'm Christy Kotke. I live at 2728 Harvest Court. I'm here tonight to not represent school board. I am school board chair this year, but we are making an effort to try to attend a city council meeting when we can and just share the words of what's going on in the community. But I also wanted to invite you to watch or attend tomorrow's school board meeting, where we're going to have a pretty great, robust discussion about where we are with the legislative session and funding for schools. And I know at the town hall with Rep. McLean and Sosa and Senator Solman, there were lots of questions about schools. As we know, some people ask you questions as well. So that's tomorrow night. I do also want to thank Councilor Schimmel for his newsletter he's been putting out, which is my only link to what's happening in the city. I really love the format. I love the how it brings us to the meetings and a nice summary and highlights, similar to what the city newsletter does as well. But I really appreciate that individual reach out. And since I think I'm going to have some time, I'm going to read just a couple paragraphs for what we're going to talk about tomorrow at school board. I was inspired by the words of Alicia Keys last week as she accepted the Dr. Dre Impact Award at the Grammys. She spoke about the value that every single person brings to the world and mentioned one impactful line that resonated with me. DEI is not a threat, it's a gift. I am so proud that our Forest Grove community and council celebrates and embraces these values: diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I want to highlight what DEI really looks like in Forest Grove to make sure we aren't allowing it to be redefined. In this community, DEI looks like our police department attending microaggression and bias awareness trainings designed by our very own police chief in conjunction with Pacific University. It is the Parks and Rec department reviewing policy for fees so that everyone can access services. It is a local parent group volunteering their time so that girls who aren't in club sports still have access to play softball. It is our Public Works department making sure our sidewalks are ADA accessible. It is a thoughtful mural in Forest Glen Park. Oh my gosh, was that 2 minutes?
I'll let you go. I like what you're saying.
Painted by students and commissioned by the City Council that welcomes everyone. And in our schools, DEI looks like teachers providing reading instruction with materials that students see themselves represented in. It is the space for clubs at our schools for Unified Sports, the Gay Straight Alliance, LIA, Juntos, Period Club, and many more, so that all students have a place they belong and can thrive. It looks like students with disabilities playing sports and acting on stage alongside their peers. It is ensuring our policies prevent discriminatory practices so that our school communities feel safe. Our schools are places where everyone is not just valued, but celebrated for exactly who they are. It is recognizing that in a town where the majority of residents are people of color, we have improvements to make in representation on both our school board and our council. And just a friendly reminder that school board elections are coming up. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kotke.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Mr. Dale Feek. Yes, we got him, Mr. Feek.
Mayor Wenzel and councilors, I'm Dale Feek, been a resident of Forest Grove since 1966, and a former Title I reading teacher from 1970 to 1982. That's important. Title I for kids that need extra help, funded by the Department of Education. I sent you an email. You have a copy of that there. And I sent this also to Representative McLean, and she's already replied to me, and I want to relay that to you, what she said. But Friday, February the 7th, Congresswoman Suzanne Bonamici and others were blocked from entering the United States Department of Education. Congresswoman Bonamici spoke before they walked the doors of the Department of Education on their attempt to enter, and I watched this on C-SPAN. They were refused entrance, and many police guns were behind the glass doors ready to prevent them from entering. And they held up their badges saying, "We are U.S. Congressmen," and they wouldn't let them in the Department of Education. Because active links are not, anyway, you don't, Mariah can't send active links to you, so I photocopied the whole thing so you can read it yourself. It's very serious. As the week says, monks rampage, how the world's richest man is dismantling the federal government. That is exactly what he's doing, okay? And not only the Department of Education, but other very important functions. Susan McLean wrote, "I am deeply concerned about President Trump's attacks on our democratic institutions and vulnerable communities," which we are. Here in Oregon, we will do everything in our power to protect our state from chaos at the federal level. As state leaders, we were prepared to use every tool available to stand up for the rights of Oregonians. We won't let anyone divide us or hurt our friends, families, and communities. We will always support Oregon's congressional delegation in their efforts to hold the Trump administration accountable. And I went to Senator Wyden's rally in Portland on Saturday based upon this. Standing up for our democracy will always be one of my top priorities. I appreciate you taking the time to write me about this important issue. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me for further information. I encourage all of you, stick to your guns, protect the vulnerable. We have, as been told before you, at least 45% of the kids go to schools here that are Spanish speaking from that community. And we all need to support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Feek. Lots of applause tonight. Wait, we have no one else signed up for public comment, but if you entered the auditorium and did not know where to sign up for public comment or inspired by the previous two speakers to give public comment, you may come or raise your hand and I'll call on you and you can come up to the front. Seeing no one in the audience for public comment, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to give public comment? I'll wait a second. Seeing no one on Zoom with their hand raised feature, we are going to move on to the consent agenda. Items under the consent agenda are considered routine and will all be adopted with a single motion without separate discussion. Councilors who wish to remove an item from the consent agenda may do so prior to the motion. Any item or items removed will be discussed and acted upon following the approval of the remaining items. What is the wish of the council?
Move to approve the consent agenda, Mayor.
Second.
Thank you. The consent agenda was moved by Council President Valenzuela and seconded by Councilor Gustafson. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say aye. Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved with a vote of 7-0. Item D on the agenda is additions or deletions. City Manager, are there any additions or deletions?
No additions or deletions. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any proposed by councilors? Councilor Gustafson.
I'd like to add adopting Forest Grove as a sanctuary city to the agenda.
Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, it was moved by Counselor Guston and seconded by Council President Valenzuela. So do we need to have discussion on that to see if it can actually, we need to have discussion? to
Yeah,
see
it
if-
might
and
be
then a
worth
vote to see if it's
referencing
added.
what the council rules say about this real quick.
Okay.
About adding something to the agenda. If you could stand by for just a moment.
Okay, we'll stand by.
Just for
So-
the record, could you restate what it was adding?
I'm sorry.
What was
Could you just what you wanted to add?
what did you want added to the agenda?
Discussion of designating Forest Grove as a sanctuary city.
So what Council Rule 6.3 says is at any meeting of the council, a council member may request the council add or delete an item from the final agenda for that night's meeting. A majority of the council members present must approve the request, and the request must not require a staff report. So the council would need to decide whether they want a staff report on this if you want to add it to the agenda. If it does require a staff report, then it would be added to a future agenda at a time certain that the council would set. So I hope that helps, Mayor.
So, well, did you want a staff report?
No.
Okay. So then, Jesse, protocol is that we have discussion right now. There's a motion,
Yeah.
there's a second. We discuss, and then we vote to see if we want to add it to this meeting.
If you don't believe that it requires a staff report, then you can add it to tonight's meeting. If you would like a staff report, then obviously it would need to be at a future meeting because staff would have to go research it and come back with a staff report for an agenda item at a following meeting.
I'm hearing from Councilor Guston, she does not want a staff report.
Yes.
Okay, Council President
And the
Valenzuela.
other, okay, this is very important to me and to many of us. But I believe a staff report is important just to have the background, the research, to see how many of our neighboring cities, what their situation is. I would like to have a report for that purpose.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I
so
agree.
now we're changing it that there's now the person who made the motion agrees.
Yes, I
right,
agree to
so-
have a staff report.
Okay, so now are we voting to see if we want it added to a future meeting?
Yes, and another consideration potentially is if you would want to have it as a work session, or do you want it as an actual agenda item? And if so, kind of what type of agenda item, whether it would be a presentation, whether you would want a draft resolution, or whether you would want a work session to kind of hear what the staff report is and discuss what you may or may not want to do in regards to what the topic is.
Okay, I'm looking for, go ahead, do you guys have more to say, or Council?
I just have, the goal for me is to get to a resolution where we designate this city as a sanctuary city. So whatever steps are logical for that to happen, I'm for them.
Councilor Schimmel, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, just a comment. I mean, I certainly want to hear from the population that such a resolution would serve. So whether that be some local groups or individuals representing those groups that could speak to it.
Okay, so I'm just going to try to keep it on the rails. So right now, let's the motion on the floor is to have either a work session or a resolution added to an upcoming meeting to discuss Sanctuary City. Am I characterizing that correctly for the two people who made the motion? And okay, so I'm going to open it for discussion, and then we'll vote on that motion. Okay, so the first discussion I heard, and I'm just going to paraphrase because I want to say it loud because I don't know if people heard, but what I heard from Councilor Schimmel is an interest to hear. There's intent to help people who are. My understanding is to help communities who are feeling vulnerable right now, to help them feel included and safe in Forest Grove. And so Councilor Schimmel wants to know that this resolution will meet that need. He wants to hear from people and service organizations from the communities that we're intending to help. Is that an accurate representation of what you said? Okay, does anyone else have? I would be open to a work session to discuss it. I have similar just a little history. 2017, we brought a resolution for Sanctuary City. It was one counselor didn't attend. Council President Tom Johnson didn't attend. There were 6 counselors there. It did a 3-3 vote, and it failed. The following meeting, the council came back and did an inclusive resolution that states pretty much the same things that a sanctuary city states, and it passed 7-0. I'm just giving you that historical context. For me, I echo similar statements as Councilor Schimmel. I have not received. I want to make sure, I feel like a lot of us have good intentions and being helpful, but I'm not hearing that from the population that I think that we all want to say, hey, we're wrapping our arms around you. This is a safe place. So I guess there's a concern to draw attention to Forest Grove and in an act of good deed, not really do what's intended. So I would entertain a work session to discuss some of these things, but I'm going to say I'm a little apprehensive because I have not heard from, yes, Councilor Gustafson.
I've heard over the past month several people. I mean, over this past weekend, it was probably 20, but even before that, they were trickling in. And there is a possible risk, but Oregon is a sanctuary state, so there's already risk. And we're a small city. So it's something to definitely discuss. So if we have a work session that gives all of us opportunity, because we all have a different network, to have conversations with different people, and then come back to that work session with what we have found out.
Okay. Is there consensus to have a work session on this topic?
I'm open to a work session.
Open to a work session? Open. Okay, and we'll try to get it in the next month. I mean, what is our work set, what's our agenda looking like, Jesse? Can we get it in February or March or?
Yeah, let me just reference this really quick. So I think the bottom line is if the council wants to have it sooner than later, the next 2 meetings that are coming up are February 24th and March 17th. It would be nice if the council could. I think we could fit it in either meeting. We would have to bump 1 or 2 other things, but they weren't things that were imminent in terms of having a deadline associated with them.
Okay. Let's schedule it for one of those 2 meetings. Or does that work with the people who? Okay.
Okay.
So there's consensus. We have to have a vote. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mariah, for keeping me in order. So, all those in favor of having a work, can I just do a consensus vote? Yeah. All those in favor of having a work session to discuss sanctuary city status, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say aye. Hearing none. A sanctuary city work session will be added in February or March to the city council calendar with a vote of 7-0. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Item E, presentations. The council will hold questions until the end of each presentation. A 2-minute reminder will be given to the presenter to conclude remarks. Our first presenter comes from Community Development Director, Mr. Brian Pohl. Oh, and Miles is going to help him out. So we have our Economic Development Coordinator and our Community Development Director coming up to present.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Brian Pohl, Community Development Director, along with Miles Glowacki, Economic Development Coordinator, as you've already stated. Here before you talking about our downtown projects and programs that we've done both last year and predating last year. Next slide, please. The purpose is to basically talk about the sort of investments that the city is making in our downtown. Against the backdrop of this, actually, the next presentation you're going to hear is from Sherry Stewart from the Oregon Main Street Program. The city and the Urban Renewal Agency have been making many strategic investments in downtown well before the Main Street Program was really working in Forest Grove. And we're kind of looking to highlight some of those programs that we've done so far. Next slide, please. By way of agenda, you can see what we're going to cover tonight. The Downtown Glow Up Project, the Building Improvement Grant Program, Storefront Improvement Grant, URA Property Purchases, Tourism Sponsorship Program, Tourism Capital Program, Art Program, and Main Street Program. First, the Downtown Glow Up. You may have heard about this. The city is investing in its downtown I guess to kind of start, I think a number of you probably have heard or are aware of sort of our downtown trees and some of the issues they've caused. Sidewalk uplift, great uplift. We've had some trip and falls. Talking about the potential dangers around street trees and some of the issues they've caused so far. It's not just theoretical. We've actually had some examples of people falling, slipping, hurting themselves. This area focuses on basically, if you want to kind of conceptualize it, anywhere in the downtown that has the extra bricks along the side of the sidewalk. Many years ago, that was done as a CDBG, Community Development Block Grant project in our downtown. And so the city is looking to, it's been about 20 years, and the city is looking to maintain those areas. What you should expect is some tree trimming, removal, and replacement. Replacing the damaged uneven sidewalk panels and bricks, replacing the steel tree grates with flexible porous surface treatment, new public waste receptacles, and enhanced electrical access to light the downtown trees. Next slide, please. I think you've seen this graphic before, but this is showing where most of the trees will remain, but where some of the trees will be removed and replanted, or just removed. We've also kind of identified a few areas for potential public art areas for installation art. See those in the starred areas. This is about $500,000, and it's using a big different sort of pot of money or pots of money between ARPA, Urban Renewal, the TLT, the Street Fund, and the Street Light Fund. Again, most trees are going to remain, but there are the trees that are causing damage that will be removed and replaced with those panels and grates fixed as well. You can see right here, this picture was taken the day that the Public Works Director and I were out kind of surveying trees. This happened. That is a tree growing into a water meter. Was causing issues for adjacent property owner. So the trees being marked for removal have caused the damage we've talked about, and many of them due to not being an appropriate species for street side planting. We'll also look at that grate removal and replacement treatment. The trees are often growing outside the grate openings. Grates become dislodged, they pop up. People get out of their cars and trip over those things, fall and hurt themselves. It's happened before. We've found that we don't usually have enough trash receptacles. They are often overflowing. These will allow for stacking of having these overflowing trash cans allows for stacking of garbage outside the can. And what we have right now is difficult to service. And so once we have on order, I think we've actually received these, if I'm not mistaken, are much easier to service. They have increased our capacity pretty dramatically, and will provide a lot more capacity for trash in the downtown area. Adding lighting and electrical will improve our ambiance of the streetscape. It will complete the current loop of lights, and it will enhance access to electricity for events. You'll see a lot more ability for electricity to be used in our downtown events. We did hold a meeting in conjunction with the City Club, or at the City Club leadership. We held a meeting with downtown property owners and business owners to talk about this project. It was attended by about 30 people. We also have a dedicated webpage there. You see the link right there. You can Google it or find it on the city website. There's also a flyer that was produced, and Miles went and visited about 35 businesses to talk about the project with that flyer. Also, just so you see, that's the flexible porous surface treatment. This is the sort of stuff that's kind of feels a little bit spongy underfoot, but it definitely has sort of a flat appearance. Maybe get a little bit of undulation or whatever, but not the ledges and lips you see that can cause the tripping. That's what you are looking to see in the coming months. This project did start. It's out for bid right now. We'll certainly know a lot more about when this project will both commence and finish. But that's dependent on the bids, and so it's anticipated that it would be completed or be started by fall, with completion kind of pending based on the bids we actually get. Next slide, please. We also have created and administered our new building improvement grant program. This is sort of a well-planned building improvement grant program to amplify the investments downtown. And as such, these are matching grants, $100,000 in matching grants. I should say up to $100,000 in matching grants. That's not a minimum. it's a maximum. It was just started last year. We did receive 9 applications totaling $250,000. And again, the public investment is matched dollar for dollar with the private investment and capped at $100,000 per project. The EDC is currently reviewing these applications. They'll be reviewing these again at their next meeting Thursday, this coming Thursday. You, as the URA board, will see these on February 24th. Yes, Mayor.
Sorry, so how much total money did the URA put towards this program?
I believe it was $350,000.
I'm like adding it. Thank you.
For Paul.
And
Paul's nodding along. Yes.
$350,000 for how, like each year or no?
For this year.
For this year.
Nothing's budgeted for next year, obviously. So.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
The Storefront Improvement Grant Program. This is an oldie but a goodie. This is only only $10,000 matching grant. Storefront improvements can, depending on the scale of the project, can cost a lot of money. But oftentimes in small business, just that little bit of sort of matching funds can really help get the project over the finish line. One that you couldn't afford. Maybe you had 90% of your funding in place and wanted to move forward with it, but you couldn't. This $10,000 might get you over that hump. And indeed, it has funded nearly 20 projects. You can see all the past projects in red there, as well as the 24-25 projects in blue. There are some current applications pending right now at those addresses you see up there. This is administered by staff, and it's been a very effective program. We've seen a lot of results out of this program.
I'm going to annoy you, but how much money has the URA spent on storefront improvements? So just the 20, if it's 20 projects, that's $10,000 each. That's $200,000.
It has not been that much, simply because not everything
is that much. But do you guys know how much it's been, or no?
I don't know offhand. I can get that number for you, though, Mayor.
I'm just curious.
Very problem. So.
I'm going to take a guess that's at least 100,000. Okay, thanks.
That would be my sort of educated guess. But again, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, you're fine. Thank you.
Next slide. And as you all are aware as well, when you've met as the Urban Renewal Agency, because we are looking at 2 potential acquisitions right now, the theater building and the Woodfold gravel lot. The URA has also participated in Urban Renewal Agency property acquisitions. The Jesse Quinn site, as well as Site B, those are kind of one and the same. That's the old Times Litho site. The URA purchased that site, raised the buildings on site, and participated in getting the Jesse Quinn building constructed. And that building was constructed and opened in 2017. Property was acquired in 2014. And right now, again, as mentioned before, the theater building and the Woodfold gravel lot are under contract and moving through the due diligence phase, and hopefully will become properties of the URA at some point soon. Next slide, please. We've talked recently about this, the tourism sponsorship program. This is started last year at the council's direction. This provides up to 5,000 square foot or $5,000 per event at the sponsorship level indicated per event. We've budgeted about $40,000 per year. It has funded a lot of different events in the city, and all the sort of major ones that you can think of are represented up here. And as you can see, we get our Pretty Little logo on all those posters. But that's not the point. The point really is to help local events come to fruition and make them better. So that has been very well received, and I think very much appreciated by the community as well. Next slide, please. Tourism Capital Grant Program. So as opposed to the events, this is more sort of buying stuff, so things like pop-up canopies, coolers, water misters, outdoor seating, PA systems, electrical sort of stuff. That's budgeted about $10,000 per year. Last year, we awarded $7,500 for those things that I just mentioned. Again, that was started in 2024 alongside the tourism sponsorship program. But it's helped make some events actually work better because of different things that we've been able to help them purchase. Next slide, please. This is a new one that is sort of just taking shape right now, but the Tourism Art Program. The purpose of the program is to provide financial assistance directed to the Forest Grove Arts Commission for purchasing the installation of public art. And it's funded at 10% of total TLT revenues. that equates to about $10,000 a year. It's an initial year right now, and it will be funding the installation of a mural at Lincoln Park. So that's exciting to see. And last but not least, the Forest Grove Main Street program. This is comes out of the national Main Street program. We have an Oregon Main Street program as well. Again, Sherry Stewart will be participating or will be presenting to you shortly. They will be doing, I should say the Oregon Main Street program, Sherry and her consultant, will be doing an assessment of the Forest Grove program in March of this year, so next month. There'll be a public town hall March 3rd right here in this room, talking to business owners, property owners, people who live in the community. And so just for some potential questions for the council to consider about the Main Street program and the future work sessions is what roles and responsibilities should the city play, Main Street, City Club, community partners? How do we define those roles and responsibilities? I think we'll have some good feedback on that from the assessment that the Oregon Main Street program does. How would the city like to participate in the Main Street program going forward? How are Main Street programs funded? And how is financial oversight provided? So there are a lot of questions coming, and I think we're kind of waiting to see how this assessment goes, and we'll get a lot of good feedback from the state at that point, and this will be a robust conversation for the city to have, as well as alongside City Club and all the partners as well. But more to come on Main Street in just a few minutes, and with that, next slide, please. That's the end, and we will take any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff? Counselor Schimmel, and then Counselor, did you have your hand raised? Okay, Counselor Schimmel.
I had several questions that let me know, Mayor, if I just need to ask one at a time.
You can do whatever you want right now.
Well, circling back to the glow up, and I apologize if I missed the timeline for that being completed.
The project is out for bid right now. I just talked to Greg Robertson, the Public Works Director. It's coming out of Public Works or engineering shop right now. So it's going to kind of depend on the selected contractor. We anticipate that should be this fall, but we're not sure. It just kind of depends on how that RFP is responded to. Private sector, how they want to schedule. Jesse,
Can I maybe add to that?
Yep, go ahead, Jesse.
The one thing we want to be careful about sequencing that project is that we don't impact community events. And there's kind of two times of the season where you can effectively plant trees. One is right now, February, March. The other is in the November, December timeframe. You want to make sure they have ample time to get water. And so, as Brian mentioned, we are doing a bid package. And then at this point, we're looking at the fall after the events are over to really kind of get busy with the project. And we should be on schedule and on track for that. Yeah.
You have another question?
Well, I'll yield.
I do have a
Okay,
question.
Counselor Martinez.
So how have you assessed the businesses in the community to see how they have their reception to how the about having the ability to improve on their businesses? For instance, they have monies available to help with storefront improvements. Do they have the financial wherewithal to be able to match those monies to be able to make the improvements that they want to make? Does that make sense?
I think so. I'm going to turn over to Miles. He's been talking to a lot of businesses lately, and so maybe he's got some.
So I don't know about businesses that are in that situation who don't even call and ask. So I haven't had that question where somebody said, I'd like to do this, but I don't have the financing to do the match. So if they're just reading the program and deciding that they don't qualify, I don't know if they're doing that, but I haven't actually had somebody complain that that's the problem.
Are you visiting all the businesses frequently?
Not frequently. My last trip around was to talk about the glow up.
And when was that?
That was this summer, fall.
And I would think it's important for you to make frequent contact with the businesses, all the businesses, maybe every month, every couple of months.
things change. So I think that's important. I don't have a question, just a statement. I appreciate this presentation because it really just pulls together like all the different pieces that the council's been working on for the last, 10 years to try to like support our downtown. And, when you list it out, I would really like to see there's some way of like telling the story on the website. Like I took notes for my State of the City presentation in March, but really what I think stands out to me is that we're really trying to address a lot of different things. So whether it's building improvement and store improvement to downtown events to like buying like land banking and trying to encourage, new development to capital projects, like I think, and then just to infrastructure, right? Like with the glow up. So I think that oftentimes we, like some of us here doing the work can see that the city is supporting businesses and supporting the downtown, but we don't tell the story of exactly like how we're doing that and the timeline. So, and I know that we have a small staff and, a lot of things going on with our communication, manager, but I just think that any way we can like succinctly tell the story of this is how we're doing these things, it's always a win. And, using our partnerships with the City Club, with the Chamber, Adelante. So anyways, I just want to say good job to the council and to staff because I do think according to my rough math, like it's over $1 million in funding in recent years to the downtown core. So that's really good.
Yeah, easily over $1 million. And I guess, to kind of just piggyback on what you're saying, I mean, I think, we're, obviously all you all know we're going through this visioning process. One of the themes that keeps coming out is things that people move to Forest Grove for, things that people love about Forest Grove. One of those is sort of our quaint, cute sort of downtown. And that's what kind of sets us apart on the west side. For a lot of cities who don't have a downtown like that. And so it's not just sort of pretty little buildings and things like that. I mean, it's our economic development tool. I mean, it's one of our lifebloods here, and it should be respected and invested.
Yep. Councilor Gustafson.
Just to note, I know you said that the town hall would be in the auditorium. It may move to the senior center because the auditorium has a planning commission meeting that night, which would have cut the town hall short, and we really need the entire time. So the event may switch to the senior center. Just wanted to make sure everybody knew that since it's on record.
What date is that?
March 3rd is a Monday, and then there'll be a debrief for government officials on Tuesday morning. Can't remember what time, 8:30 or 9:30.
Okay. Any other questions for city staff? Councilor Schimmel.
Yeah, I really meant to echo the mayor's comments. I mean, a sensational program and over $1 million going out to businesses. That's fantastic. I was curious with the projects that have landed or those that are planned. Is there some follow up or way to measure the economic or community impact of those investments?
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I think when you've asked that question, it kind of got me thinking, and the mayor kind of putting forth, sort of her rough back of the napkin numbers, because the public investment's not the whole story, right? I mean, the public investment is meant to catalyze the private investment. This is not just the city's going to go in and just fix all these things up. This is sort of like we're going to support those efforts to fix our downtown. So the total investment's really the story, right? And with that question that you've asked, I'm sort of scratching my head a little bit, like, what's the best way to capture that? So I think we've got to kind of regroup amongst ourselves a little bit and try to figure out how we best look at that. I mean, the most obvious number is probably, taxable assessed value, and sort of that change over time, as a business gets building permits, the building reassessed and things like that. So we probably can track that. But I think that there's a little bit of this sort of, context here is that, we haven't done a great job of telling this story. Having this work session or having this presentation right now is one of those sorts of like groundwork things to kind of start telling this story, because it needs to get told. We're catalyzing a lot of investment. So that's kind of a non-answer to your question, but I think that's an important piece to look at harder.
And
Okay, Counselor Guston.
Just to expand on that a little bit, if I'm understanding the question right, the surveys are a baseline themselves, and so there'll be another survey further down the line and then another to assess change. But then also the businesses will determine a baseline on numbers, and then there'll be a baseline after changes are made in the downtown, which will reflect more traffic. So all of the baselines are happening at this time, and then there'll be other surveys that are done based on economics and based on foot traffic and based on how people feel about downtown in the future.
I do think that the tax assessed value has to be like, we have to be using that because that's the whole goal of the URA is to increase that tax, right? So I think that has to be going back, like that has to be the metric that we, or at least one of the metrics that the city uses, because that is the whole goal of the program, right? And then, I mean, that's the way that it was explained to me back in 2014 when I learned about it. So you had another question, Counselor?
it was a comment. Rarely will I hazard to suggest how staff spends their time. I want to encourage that, Miles, your time spent is toward the objective that we declare as a council. How you exercise that, I want to make sure it's for the success of the project that we empower you to do, and you can find outlets like the chamber to touch base with the businesses that you're unable to reach. But I just applaud you both for the programs that you've initiated and how they're executed, and just look forward to learning more.
Okay, any other? Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. We're going to move to our second presentation of the night, and we're only 15 minutes off, so I apologize to Sherry, who was waiting. But we have our Main Street program, and Sherry Stewart, Oregon State Parks and Recreation Main Street Coordinator, is joining us via Zoom. Hello, Sherry. Can you hear and see us?
Yes, I can. Thank you for having me tonight, Mayor and council members and city staff and others in the audience. It's my pleasure to be here to give a brief overview of Main Street and some of the upcoming work that we'll be doing with the City Club. Shall I go ahead and get started, or do you have any questions for me? Okay. All right. Well, I'd like to start with just a very brief overview of what Main Street is. We are the state's downtown revitalization program. We call it place-based economic development. We look at all of those things that a community has as its assets and use that as a long-term sustainable economic development strategy. We know through the work that we're doing, we help communities identify all of those things that make that community, and the historic downtown with its history, its historic character, the events and activities, the people. Those are all things that are part of what sets your community and any of the communities that we work with throughout Oregon apart from any other. And that's a very compelling story to share and is part of sustainable economic development. We know through the work that we're doing that we are having a fiscal and social and economic impact throughout Oregon. A couple of years ago, we contracted with an outside consultant who did a study over 10 years of the work that we've been doing with our Main Streets, and that resulted in the Impact of Oregon Main Street study. A copy of that report's on our website, but I'll touch in a couple of minutes on some of the areas that we're having an impact in terms of building communities, strengthening local economies, and preserving that history and heritage communities. Next slide, please. In Oregon, there's about 45 states that have a statewide or Main Street coordinating program. In Oregon, we happen to be located in Oregon Heritage, which is part of Oregon Parks and Rec. Next slide, please. Each state that has a statewide Main Street coordinating program can design their own way of serving communities. When we were restarted by the legislature in 2007 and began taking on communities, we created a tiered structure so that we could help the broadest range of communities as possible. I've been with the program since 2009. Over the past few years, 15 years, we've added communities. We now have up to 115 communities that are participating in some level of our network. At the connected communities, that's communities join at that, and Forest Grove, the city, was at a connected communities for a few years. That's just saying we care about our downtown, but we don't really have a private sector partner or momentum yet to really fully engage and implement the comprehensive Main Street structure. The Main Street track is the level where we begin to engage more strongly with the community and can come on site and do some technical assistance and other kinds of services. And we have 3 tiers. There's a pathway to become an accredited Main Street. Where Forest Grove right now is at our starter beginning Main Street level called our affiliated Main Street level. So that means that community organization either forms or an existing organization joins that wants to be the Main Street organization. And at that level, we can come in and begin to do some assessment, some goal setting, and really help set up that organization for success to implement a comprehensive downtown revitalization program over the coming years. And that's where we're at that starting level. At that level, as I mentioned, it can either be a pre-existing organization that wants to transform into a Main Street, or it could be a group of people that just says we want to form a nonprofit organization and get going. In the case of Forest Grove, the City Club stepped forward, said wanted to be the Main Street organization. So we're working with that organization to get it going. But we have all sorts of different levels of communities that are participating at that. We also created a rural regional Main Street structure a couple of years ago to enable us to work with really, really tiny towns. For example, we work with one area of our state that's a tri-county. Total population is 5,000, and we have 9 little tiny towns that are part of that tri-county area that it joined through a rural regional Main Street hub. Next slide, please. Communities choose to participate in our Oregon Main Street network for a variety of reasons. One, they really like that networking aspect, to work with communities across the state that have a similar passion for their downtown, that recognize the importance of their downtown, want to ensure that it continues to thrive and be successful, and continue to build and leverage. And our networking opportunities, our Mornings on Main, weekly calls with our network, our listserv, quarterly check-in meetings, all sorts of different ways we convene people and bring them together. We also offer ongoing education through our conference, workshops, trainings, Mornings on Main. We leverage those as well. City Club has been able, since they were designated in 2004, have begun taking advantage of some of those educational opportunities to learn and grow with the Main Street methodology. We provide on-site technical assistance depending on what level people are at. So sometimes they need us to come in and do some strategic planning, or maybe they've identified visual merchandising as a need, and we bring in a consultant to work with businesses on improving that. So those are very geared and specific to the needs of the communities after we do some initial assessments and planning with them. If a community hasn't had a historic survey, we offer that. The assessments we do, these are some periodic check-ins. We're starting with City Club on doing a community assessment visit, and that includes a few different elements. One, we want to hear from community members on how they want to see the district look, feel, and function. And so a community-wide survey was launched by City Club based upon some questions that we provided and some additional that they added. I believe they've had close to 300 responses already to that community survey, which will give us some really good feedback. We usually hope for 100, so well exceeded that goal in terms of engagement. We'll also be on site, as Brian mentioned, doing some focus groups and a community meeting to, again, begin to refine some of the information that we heard through the surveys and the focus groups. We'll do a wrap-up meeting with the City Club leadership the day after. This will be followed by a written report that's provided back to City Club and as a public document. We usually get that back to the community within 30 days. Part of the team will have a consultant, Kevin Teeter, Street View Planning. He was a former Main Street Executive Director. Another person from our office, Cam Amabile, and myself will be part of the assessment team that we've put together for Forest Grove. We also do, once we do those kinds of things, we come back and do board retreats and refine some goals based upon the Main Street structure, some strategic planning, other types of planning assistance as needed. Fundamentally, we serve as a resource center. We gather good examples from other communities around the state and share those. Some we develop our own publications to address some needs of the community. All our resources are freely accessible on our Oregon Main Street website. Next slide, please. In Oregon, when we work with communities, we use a methodology that was developed by Main Street America, which is a nonprofit subsidiary of the National Trust. They've been in place since 1977 as a pilot and 1980 as an official program, and they created a comprehensive way of looking at downtowns. We pay a licensing fee to Main Street America, and then we can leverage that methodology, and we're the connector to our local programs so that they can use this program that has been successful in thousands of communities across the country. Next slide, please. How Main Street works, that methodology, is looking at all of those elements that make for a healthy and vibrant downtown. It's looking at the physical elements through the design, and it was really wonderful to hear all of the incentive programs that are put together that are available to people in Forest Grove. I don't usually see such a robust package of investment that demonstrates to me the care that the community has about their downtown and the leadership that the city is providing. A lot of those could line up with some of the incentives that we offer through Oregon Heritage. We have the Oregon Main Street Revitalization Grant for building improvement projects. Those are open right now. Those grants can be used, go for acquisition, existing building, or new infill construction. The legislature in this round authorized $10 million in funding, so we're the maximum award per project is $400,000. So that's a pretty significant incentive that we have available to your community as a result of City Club being a network member. It's the Main Street Network member that applies on behalf of business or property owners that want to make those improvements. We also have the Diamonds in the Rough facade improvement matching grant that property owners could apply for directly. That's up to $20,000. And we also have Preserving Oregon, so for buildings listed on the National Register, those are for preservation work. Those are also up to $20,000. So our bundle of incentives could align with your business or property owners on improvements that they want to make in terms of being the match. Main Street Grant is a 70-30 split. We'll cover up to 70%. The other two are 50-50. But those physical improvements, design improvements, is a keystone. Strengthening the economic base, helping existing businesses be more successful, and then creating opportunities for new entrepreneurs to open. Doing promotional work as a third pillar of Main Street work, encouraging events and activities and marketing, creating that story about why downtown is important, why people should care, and to invite people to come down and experience what you have going on in the district. And then fundamentally having that structure in place to attract the people and financial resources that you need to be sustainable over the long haul. Main Street organizations, once they get up to that accredited level, you usually have at least one paid full-time executive director, and they usually fund themselves through a diversified funding source. Usually local government is one of the financial and philosophical partners in downtown revitalization. Usually some kind of donor campaign inviting people who care about downtown to invest in something they believe in through events and activities. Some do product sales. There's all sorts of different ways that a Main Street organization might fund itself, but through that organizational or outreach component, that's where the local Main Street organization will put together different ways for people to engage financially and with their volunteer time. When an organization like City Club is on the Main Street track, they're embracing this comprehensive scope of work, listening to the community, what the community wants the downtown to look, feel, and function, and then leveraging these 4 points into specific goals and objectives, and then action items to move forward in the next 12, 24, 36 months and moving forward. Every community, again, is different, so it's asset-based, leveraging those assets and resources that they have available. I'll say the beauty of this Main Street structure is that it's adaptable to whatever size community. I've worked with communities for 35 years in this Main Street world, both as an executive director of a Main Street organization, working with Main Street America for 8 years, and now here in Oregon. And I have worked in all size communities, from less than 1,000 up to urban neighborhood districts. And this methodology is it really addresses each of those areas of work that needs to happen, but it's based upon what you want to see achieved. Next slide, please. In Oregon, since I've been working with the communities in 2009, we've seen so much progress. When I first started with the program, I felt I was running around being Oregon's Music Man, like trying to sell the possibilities of what I knew based upon my previous work Main Street could bring to the table. But now we can talk about real results that are happening as a result of our communities embracing the Main Street methodology. We're seeing historic preservation. We're seeing communities really preserve and respect the history and heritage and bring those historic resources back to life, interpret those spaces, engage communities, share those stories, both with community members as well as inviting others outside the community. We're seeing some amazing building rehab projects, just all sorts of different ways that people are sharing information about the history and character of their downtowns. And frankly, the Main Street Revitalization Grant has been a good extra tool that we've had available since our first round in 2017. Next slide, please. We're also seeing a lot of our Main Street organizations work with community partners to continue to enhance the function of the downtown district and the experience people have, to make people want to stop, get out of their cars, walk around, and explore what that community has to offer. And that's what those placemaking activities bring to the table. Creating those pocket parks that give people space to linger, to all of those physical improvements. I see it as a layering. We do the streetscape, and that's our baseline. Then we begin to add the flowers and ongoing banner projects, and then we do the mural projects, and then we do some community engagement things. Then we activate those spaces that we've created. So really creating those inviting spaces that invite and create that sense of welcoming. Our Main Streets really lean into that really strongly with a lot of their community partners. Next slide, please. through the that impact of Oregon Main Street study that looked at the fiscal, economic, and social impacts of our Oregon Main Streets, one of the things that they found is that our main streets are really good at attracting and inviting people to the community. Both residents as well as visitors from the outside. So as a result of our main streets being in place over the 10 years of the study, which included a couple of years during the pandemic of the study, they found the additional value, not the total value, but the additional as a result of having Main Street was equivalent to about $134 million extra to the state economy as a result of having our main streets in place. So really, creating that space, doing the events, doing the programming, doing the marketing, all of those kinds of things. Our main streets are really strong at doing that. Next slide, please. Also, we found, especially during the pandemic, the importance of having our Main Street partners in place in terms of helping support the local economy and working with other economic development partners in a community. Usually, once they get at the accredited Main Street level and they have a paid executive director, then they have somebody who are feet on the street on a daily basis, a weekly basis, that's checking in with business owners, checking in with property owners, saying how are things going, what's working, what's not working, and being that connector and liaison with other organizations, connecting them with partners, with local government. So our Main Street organizations usually have a really good finger on the pulse of what's happening with their defined boundaries. Next slide, please. And then finally, one of the areas of impact of our main streets is we know our Main Street organizations aren't the only ones doing good work in a community. We know that there's a lot of other organizations. We know there's chambers of commerce. We know some communities have economic development staff or other economic development partners. We know there's other nonprofit organizations. What a Main Street organization will do, they're like the all managers, so to speak, for a downtown district. And so they're looking at all of those pieces that make for a healthy and vibrant downtown. They're establishing those overarching goals. And then they're looking at, okay, who's doing what that's having some impact in some of those goals, and who can we lean in and support, and where are the gaps? Where do we need to create some activity or events to fill in and round out those 4 pillars of Main Street? So really strengthening those partnerships, leveraging, getting everybody focused on a shared vision for the future of the downtown, because they have a very limited, I know when I was an executive director, it was kind of like a Venn diagram. Our chamber was doing this work, our visitors were doing this work, the city was doing this, our regional economic development was doing this, and we were doing this. So we kind of figured out where we were overlapping and where we had our individual strengths that really worked cohesively and as partners together on behalf of the whole community. Next slide, please. We track on our Main Street track communities, those top 3 communities, on a quarterly basis. They have to submit data to us. So once I started with the state, we began tracking in 2010. This is just up through 2023. We're just getting our 4th quarter reports in for last year. But you can see where the amount of investment that's happening in communities. And a lot of this wasn't happening before Main Street came into town. Over $256 million in private sector improvements have been happening in building improvement projects. Over 755 net new businesses, 238 business expansions, and 231 business acquisitions in our top 3-tier communities. We've also created new jobs, over 57 net new jobs in our Main Street districts, close to 2,000 building improvement projects in communities that are participating in our Main Street track. About 340 over 341,000 volunteer hours. Most of our Main Street organizations are volunteer driven. Most only have one full-time staff person. A few have multiple staff, but a lot of this work is happening because people in the community care about their downtown, and Main Street gives them a structure for showing that love and getting involved. On average, we do an annual budget and salary survey for our Main Street track communities. So when we look at all of those, we have some that are very small as they're starting out, and some on the higher end that have been engaged with us for 15 years or more. So the average budget is around $173,000. At least at that time. I think it's up a little bit right now. Next slide, please. One of the things I like to end with, though, that Main Street only works because people in the community care about their downtown and are willing to roll up their sleeves, get involved in designing goals and objectives and implementing projects and activities and sharing their love and getting more people involved. So the most important impact are people in the community that gather. Next slide, please. And here's my contact information if you have anything above and beyond tonight that I haven't covered. So thank you very much for sharing.
Great. Thank you, Sherry. Any questions for Sherry? Yeah, I don't know. Did someone, Councilor Gustin, did you have your hand raised? No. Okay.
I do want to see something.
Councilor Martinez.
So it looks like the Main Street project would help with businesses and bringing EDC together with that, filling any gaps to help support businesses and build our downtown. That's what I'm gathering.
That's certainly one of the areas of work that Main Streets do through the economic vitality pillar that do on the street, face-to-face, talking to business owners. They might do surveys and really kind of bring those resources. Look at who has some of those resources, make sure the business owners and property owners know about what resources are available, but Main Streets are often that glue then that can provide that support over time, especially once they get to the point where they have a robust enough budget that they're able to hire staff to be that feet on the streets for them.
Thank you. Councilor Schimmel.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, thank you, Sherry, for a great presentation. It's very helpful to just see the complete picture of the program. I had a couple of questions. One was, do you already have a list of individuals or general titles that you interview for your assessment?
Yes, we've provided a list of who we typically have in those focus groups. So typically we'll have a business owner focus group, property owner, civic organizations, city representatives. I try and make myself freely available if there's other people. Hopefully, if you're not on that list or you can't make that time, you can reach out to me directly and we can schedule a phone call to get any feedback. That we want to make sure that we hear from as many people as want to share their thoughts with us.
All right, thank you.
You have another question?
Yeah. We acknowledged earlier that how the city investments already demonstrate some amount of the Main Street program. How in your assessment does it include recommendations for how you reconcile what the city or chamber or other entities are doing with regard to the Main Street program?
Yes, actually it will. So it's great to see those levels, because then we can say, hey, you have these levels, but here's some areas where you might, or this is what the chamber's doing if we hear from the chamber what they're doing. So here's some opportunities to partner or work together or share this information. So yeah, we definitely touch upon that through the assessment project. Again, we don't want to step on toes. We don't want to duplicate efforts. We want to, bring enhanced value and coordination to the community through that process.
Great, thank you.
Counselor Faulkner.
Sherry, thank you. It's nice to meet you. I'm wondering if you gave us, the state website for the Main Street program, the state program. I'm wondering, you pulled a couple of numbers for us. Like, for instance, you gave us the average annual budget for Main Street programs. And I'm wondering if we have access to public information that's at a little bit more of a granular level. I'm curious to see sort of what the range is and, where those programs fall in that sort of continuum and kind of how old they are. I would love to suss out those numbers a little bit for myself so I have a better appreciation and understanding of the way, a program progresses. I'd like to see a little
sure.
more detail.
Sure. Yeah, you can reach out to me directly with some of those questions, and I'll be happy to respond to them. We don't put the budget salary survey specific town results on our website, but I do have information so I can give you highs and lows and ranges and things like that. I have that information for our Oregon Main Street Network. Main Street America also does a trend survey, so they also have a similar kind of thing where they collate, including data from our state all together in one report. And I believe that just came out or is soon to come out. So there's a couple of different ways. You can also look at our Impact of Oregon Main Streets report. That one is on our website right on the front page. You'll see if you go to our website an orange portal button. I encourage you to click on that because there's a lot of resources through there as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. I have a question. I hope I can say it well. So I guess, as the mayor and moving forward, I'm just kind of want to have a little bit of a timeline and then a process question. So it's my understanding that so there's been the survey, and then in March, you're going to come visit and do some interviews, focus groups, a community meeting. And then after that, you are going to give a report and an assessment with some goal setting to City Club. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Okay.
we will give them a written report, and I'll probably come back and do a verbal report too. And then based upon that, we can establish a scope of work for me to continue to come back and work with City Club to be able to leverage that into specific goals and objectives and brainstorming about projects and activities and some other kind of work. I should note, I didn't mention this at the outset, there is no fee to participate in Oregon Main Street, nor do we charge the community for all the technical assistance that we provide. That's one of the benefits of joining our network. So you're dedicating your time and energy and your community's resources, and we're coming and help you leverage those. And we don't charge for our services.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. And then, so I guess my question is, as the city looks to kind of answer some of the questions that our community development director brought up before, is what is going to be the role of the city with the Main Street program? What do we hope to get out of the Main Street program? Where's the financial accountability? Some of those things. When I'm wondering what information do we get from does the city get any information from the Main Street program about their recommendations, their assessment to help us at our, because I would imagine at some point our city council is going to want to have a work session about the direction we want to go in and what we're finding, and kind of answer some of those questions. So I'm just wondering if the city's privy. I heard you say that. I was kind of confused, to be honest, because I thought Councilor Gustafson said that elected officials were having a wrap-up meeting on March 4th at 9 a.m. But then in your presentation, you said the wrap-up was with City Club, and then 30 days later, you would give a written account. So I'm just kind of wondering how the city plays in this process.
Sure. And yes, the report is a public document. Happy to share that with the council. Typically on the community assessment visit, the wrap-up is with the leadership, but we leave it to the local folks. If you want to engage with city representatives to be at that meeting, that's fine. But I know that you have a public meetings notice kind of thing, and it's when you have more than a few counselors together in a room together. So I know that there's issues too. It's typically just the leadership because we're just giving our very initial kind of, we were on site, we did the community meeting, we've read the results, and it's just, here's the direction that we're going. Does this sound okay? And then we take in that kind of level of feedback, and then we go off and do the report, and then we'll present it back. But yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Counselor Gustafson.
I think that might have just been a lack of clarity because I think on the document it said government, so the assumption was city government and not the city club board. So that's probably what it is, which will make the 4th a lot easier to try to figure out. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, Council President
Yes.
Valenzuela. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you so much for your presentation, your very detailed presentation. Can you tell me a little bit more about the community outreach that you do? I'm particularly interested to know how you reach out to the Latino community.
Very good question. And each community could be a little bit different. For example, when we worked in Woodburn, 90% of the downtown businesses were Latino owned. So they had somebody that was in the community that worked with the city that could be an interpreter for us. So when we did the community presentation and the facilitation, they were able to bring that interpreter in because of that's who we were trying to reach as downtown business and property owners in that community assessment. Some of our documents we've had translated into Spanish. So some of our grant applications and things like that we've translated. But with the community outreach in particular, the written survey was in English. That was distributed through City Club. But if you have some suggestions on other ways to engage, or we could slow down the process a little bit. If you feel like there's something that we need to do to be a little bit more welcoming or inclusive based upon your population, we're always willing to adapt.
Thank you so much. And please, yes, let's connect. Because I do have a couple of ideas.
Okay, awesome. Great.
Okay, I'm giving a once over, Sherry, to make sure. I don't see any other questions. We really appreciate you coming and giving us your time to give us the little 411 overview about Main Street program.
Sure. Thank you for the gift of your time.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, continuing with our theme of economic development, we are going to bring up Ms. Claudia Yakos from the Forest Grove Chamber of Commerce. She's the executive director, who's going to present on the Small Business Development Center update. Hi, Claudia. Good evening.
I am here to present on the CIG update for 2024 and what we've done thus far. There you go. No. You want to just, and I'll just tell you when to, rather than doing the little. Awesome. Okay, so obviously the mission for the Forest Grove Cornelius Chamber is to promote a diverse, inclusive, and thriving business community working together to ensure an equitable and sustainable future where businesses succeed and people prosper. Next slide. So the Community Enhancement Grant did provide for us a critical support that we needed to launch this hub. We had started, but this really gave us the boost to gain momentum for this hub. While we're still in the early stages of this incubator, it's already making a difference. It's fostering innovation, supporting economic growth, and positioning us for a stronger, more vibrant future for our businesses, for our community. And it is trickling down to making sure that this is a place where families and businesses thrive. Next slide. These are our goals. Again, I'm going to try to keep the 10-minute presentation for time. So I'm going to just give you little tidbits you all can read, and we can come back to it if you really need to see these. But we're definitely looking at empowering our entrepreneurs. We're developing our materials to be biculturate in Spanish, in language, and not just in Spanish, just to be clear. We are empowering our newly entrepreneurs to ensure that we can help them grow and not just beyond startups. We're engaging with experts to assist businesses in scaling and expanding beyond the startup phase. And we are helping others to help them through the process of growing their business as well. So we are also helping to connect businesses to critical resources, such as insurance, capital, and financial tools for long-term success. Next slide. We have thus far created accessible resources in Spanish to address language barriers. We've engaged with underrepresented groups to ensure inclusivity in all programs and materials. We've hosted sessions that are tailored to address challenges faced by our entrepreneurs from various cultural and linguistic backgrounds. And we have established, sorry, my computer is freezing here. I look at both. And we have established easily navigatable platforms for entrepreneurs to find the support that they need. So I'm going a little quick just because I do want to hold some space for the following things. So this year, we have been working up to this launch. It's definitely, if you want to go to the next slide, creating our educational entrepreneurship trainings. The first one is Business 101, How to Start a Business. We are personalizing the mentoring. We're providing technical support, helping them to navigate the digital tools. We are helping them to communicate, to present their business model, anywhere from idea to presentation, how to market their business to product, develop their marketing strategies, how to budget. That includes everything that has to do with financial literacy and budgeting skills, how to build their credit, establishing and managing credit, and developing a business plan. It is a 6-week course. If you go to the next slide, we can talk a little bit more about this. And for this class in particular, I'm very excited because we're not only holding it on a Friday night. We've had 12 registrants, 2 English speakers, 10 Spanish speakers. And on a Friday night, that's pretty hard to do. And if you ask other groups what their success rate, it's not that high. I am so excited about what we're doing. This particular class is pretty near and dear to our heart because as a business owner and navigating the landscape of owning a business, it's very nice to be able to sit with folks and to be able to talk to them about what kind of business is it that you want to have, and really showcasing what businesses look like, whether it's an LLC, whether it's an S Corp, whether it's all of those things, and getting them to open their eyes and say, I have no idea. Let's talk about this. So that's what this particular Start Your Business, Emprende tu Negocio, is all about. And we're very excited for the launch of this particular training. It's been very empowering for these business owners, especially in this landscape of, being fearful and, it's community, it's bringing everybody together. So this is what this CIG grant is doing. We started off by one-on-one coaching and training, but it has allowed us, if you go to the next slide, it has allowed us to empower 60. Mariah, if you can go to the next slide. So we have built 60 or empowered 60 business owners, provided personalized guidance tailored to their personal needs. We've launched this series. We've expanded leadership partnerships. And let me go back. I think I I'm okay. We've expanded leadership and partnerships. We've hired Ceci, who is our business development director. She's the one that leads our initiative and fosters this trust. We've partnered with Washington County Small Business Support Network to expand the regional resources and support. We've enhanced the online presence. We've added business resources and partner links to our website. We've designed digital advertisement and formatted LinkedIn profiles to strengthen business branding. We've increased resource accessibility, provided education and tools, secured grants from the City of Cornelius, City of Forest Grove, and Washington County. So the CIG grant for us was really that push that we believe in you. We recognize what you're dreaming of, and it's really catapulted us to write more grants, to seek more funding, and through that, the funding is coming. This is what we call sustainability for our business development incubator that I feel will be here long after I'm not here. So I'm very, very excited about this. So I keep saying thank you from the bottom of my heart, because 40,000 may not mean a lot to organizations that have a lot, but it means a lot when somebody's trying to get something started. So if you go to the next slide. I think I've talked a little bit about that. If you go to the next one, I really want to concentrate on a little bit of the work that we're doing online. Oh, actually, if you go back, Mariah, yeah, right there. Let's see. If you can click where it says click here. Okay. So we've spent a lot of time this year in building partnerships. And on our website, and this is real time, you can take a look on the business development, which is where we are. If you go down, these are our partners currently. And if you go down, it'll list all the partners. And if you click, for example, on go to resources to help with business startup process. Yep. So we've navigated so people have great access to what they need real time to help them with starting the process. If somebody wants to figure out a business plan, can you click on that? Next one down. Yep. We figured out our favorite templates that they can use that are easy, accessible. If you go to the Washington County page, Adelante Mujeres, I mean, these are our partners. These are the folks that when we've got somebody that comes in and says, Claudia, so I have my LLC. I'm now looking towards scaling. Well, do you have a business plan? Okay, come here. Let's look at this. And we will sit together. We'll work through it, navigate how to start a business plan. I don't do it for them, but I show them how easy it is for them to download a template and for them to start it. And these resources are now in Spanish as well. So with the support of our partners, we have dedicated time and effort to developing this website that serves as a central resource for entrepreneurs. This platform provides direct access to local and statewide businesses, and it's making it easier for our business owners to find information that they need. So by investing in this work, we're ensuring that entrepreneurs in Forest Grove have the tools, the connections, the guidance necessary to start, sustain, and grow their business. So again, this is a full list of resources that are available when they connect to our website that is linked to the city website, not only Forest Grove, Cornelius. What we're finding, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but what we're finding is we're actually serving Western Washington County. Little did we know, and I think I mentioned this when we came to seek the CIG funding. The nearest small business development center is 26 miles from us. The nearest small business development center who provides in language, any language, Spanish, Somali, Mandarin, it doesn't matter. Hood River or Gresham. So we held a meeting with Congresswoman Bonamici, I think it was last year, and she was talking to our board and talking to the businesses saying, what do you need? And part of what was asked is, well, we need help, like we need resources. And that was one key area of, as a business, we cannot take off a day to go to a small business development center that is 26 miles, or in some cases in Mount Hood or in Gresham, to go get, the help we needed. So that was an affirmation that what we were doing was the right thing. So while we cannot call this a small business development center because we're not affiliated with a PCC or a university, we are calling it a small business development incubator that is now going to be supported by Small Business Oregon. We're working on all of those things. So I'm very excited and wanted to just share with you all of the work that is happening with the incubator. So we are building the strong relationships that I mentioned, and we're laying the foundation for an inclusive business community. So what you have provided really has been, an opportunity for us to give hands-on guidance to these businesses, that it's all about relationship, it's all about mentorship, it's all about networking. And I believe that what we're doing is creating, this one-on-one approach, to helping and to guide and to mentor. What's next for us is, a cohort of a leadership cohort. That's next year. And that's bringing mentors and new businesses together. In the meantime, we're continuing to work with our partners. We always say we're throwing the net long and wide to make sure that we can all work together. We don't reinvent the wheel. So as you notice, a lot of what I mentioned today is we're linking partners. We're not doing this alone. Yes, we hired Ceci. Your CIG dollars are at work every day, whether it's translating the material, whether it's hosting these educational series that we have. The Business 101, it's just the first one that we're going to have throughout the year. But in the meantime, we're striving to get our financial partners on board. We're gathering our resource partners to be able to link those folks that we're working with to be able to offer them free services so that they don't have to feel the bulk of how much it can cost to start a business. So with that, I just want to thank you for making the chamber stronger by engaging, in this CIG grant, and also by, coming on board and, engaging with our initiatives and events. And with that, I, we'll leave it open for any questions that you might have.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Claudia. Councilor Martinez.
I just want to say thank you for coming. This is great. It's really good to hear. It looks like also it allows for cross-cultural collaboration, which is very important. Is there also, just a question I have about grant writing? Do you assist people in direct?
You're looking up the grant writer right here.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you.
So yes, unfortunately, we're a very small staff. Grant writing is something I never thought that I had ever, well, I'd never done it before. Love it. I find I'm pretty good at it, and it's telling stories. And I think that it has thus far been pretty successful. So
Thanks, Councilor Gustafson, and then we'll
A few things. It's wonderful how like it's catapulted just in a very short amount of time. A couple questions. You call it an incubator. I was just wondering if you find places like brick and mortars where people can also move from creating their business plan to actually launching their business plan, and if there's a particular building or location that you help them find. And then the other question, I guess, would be more of a comment, but you were here when Sherry did her Main Street presentation, and just kind of an update for everybody that what you are doing is one of the needs that the Main Street program has. Like that's one of the things that is needed for a strong Main Street program. And when she was talking about figuring out who's already doing stuff, because you don't want to, do it again. You don't want to have somebody else doing the same thing. That's what she meant. The chamber is already doing this part. And so we would know that, and we would have them continue to do that and not try to reinvent the wheel. So, but back to the incubator, do you help them find a place as well?
So the incubator is just a name. It's a small business incubator for us. We just help them start their business. But of course, we definitely work with them. Most of them thus far have a place, or they are already launching their business. So it's not like it's just an idea. They're ready to go. So at that point, it's just not us. We've luckily, have a good partner. So when it comes time to that, we do have folks that if they are needing to find places, we definitely are able to send them off and find that resource to be able to help them to find, a location if that were to happen. And then the second question is in terms of what we're already doing. I think at the work session, whenever Main Street has that, the city club and the chamber started off as, designating city club as the applicant for the Main Street program with an MOU. So yeah, whenever that comes to fruition, I think it will be a great place for us to really, come together and make sure we pave the path so that nobody's reinventing the wheel, that everybody's working together, and we can all do what's best, for the community of Forest Grove. So I look forward to that.
Council President Valenzuela.
Yes, Claudia, thank you for being here. And I just want to say thank you for your hard work and for your great work to empower our community. Business is difficult, and it requires a lot of passion and a lot of work and a lot of guidance. So thank you for being part of that.
Did you have something, Councilor Schimmel?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I think the fact that you can get a 21-year-old entrepreneur to show up regularly on a Friday as a testament to the value of the program and Ceci's specific work. So that's exceptional. And besides, my daughter, what other reception are you getting from other participants?
Well, I would be remiss to not, if I didn't give credit, to Ceci. Ceci is, she has the trust of the community. And through that, she is the one that was able to pull in, the Hispanic Latino group of 10 entrepreneurs and also to host, the group. It is inspiring and exciting to see a young professional wanting to own a business, because that's amazing. What I loved in particular about what we're doing is this particular, so Zoe, she wants to start a business, but I love the interaction between the coach and the entrepreneur, because there were questions. It was about buying an existing business and the questioning of like, okay, so you're going to buy this business, how much is it? Okay, so in this case, it was a cleaning business. And there were a lot of questions that really made her think about, don't just accept the price, but think about what you're doing. Think about, how often, how many clients, what does this look like? And then going through all of, like last week, it was about, okay, so what kind of business would it be? Would it be an LLC? So it is just really fascinating for me to watch that and to just be a part of it. So, but thank you. We're loving what we're doing for the community.
Any other questions? I just want to wrap it up by saying thank you for sharing, and thank you for sharing the success with us. A number of years ago, some of the council had this idea of creating this community impact grant, and the discussion really centered around kickstarting something new, something bigger, and helping smaller nonprofits or new nonprofits get matching grants and like build out something. And this is I don't want to speak for the whole council, but speaking for the whole council, because that was the discussion we had. Like, thank you for like making our dreams come true, basically, because that's what we wanted it to do. And so it's really heartwarming. And I think that what you said earlier, that this will be around long after we're all gone, is a testament to the strength of the foundation you're making. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you for trusting us. And, we're here to help and collaborate and throw that net really wide to make sure that we can, all flourish together. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Claudia. Have a nice night. Okay, we're going to move on to item F on our agenda, which is public hearings, ordinances, and resolutions. And we're going to have resolution 2025-06, and we're going to have our police chief, Henry Ryman, and our assistant city manager and finance director, Paul Downey, come and talk to us about the resolution. Can't wait for us to read it by title only.
Mayor, councilors, we're here this evening seeking approval for resolution 2025-06. Based on the time frame and council's well aware of the staff report, we're going to briefly highlight the staff report if there's no objections, try to get back on track with our time. The current police facility was constructed in 1977. Since then, the police department has grown from 20 to 40 personnel, while the 12,120 square foot facility has remained the same size. In 2016, a police facility needs assessment identified 34 significant deficiencies in the current building. The new facility will be 45% larger and will address the noted deficiencies. It is designed for growth and expansion. The new facility will be located on the corner of 19th and Birch on city-owned property, adjacent to other city facilities. This site is centrally located to ensure equal distance, response times, and convenient access. This project has been subject to many work sessions since 2015. The most recent occurred on January 13th and January 27th of 2025, where council reached consensus number one to place a $29.5 million general obligation bond on the May 2025 ballot, also on the proposed ballot language. And lastly, to consider a resolution approving the ballot measure at this city council meeting. The attached resolution has been reviewed by the bound council, as well as the exhibit, which includes the exact ballot language. Please note that there is a Scrivener's error in Exhibit B, the ballot language, in the explanatory statement. In the fifth paragraph, second sentence, it should read the facility was value engineered versus valued engineered. You want to talk about the physical impact, Paul?
I just got the resolution. Just going back, and we're anticipating issuing a bond up to 21 years. You always do 21 years because of the payment schedule. You don't know exactly when you're going to start making the payments. The average levy rate over the life of the bond is estimated to be 77 cents per thousand, which costs the average home assessed valued home in Forest Grove, $263 per year, or approximately $22 per month over the life of that bond. So quickly going over the resolution, I'll skip the whereases. The section 1 calls for the election, calls for the city to issue the obligation bonds not more than $29.5 million. Section 2 says we will publish the ballot title in the paper for review. Then people have a 10-day period to challenge that ballot. Section 3, we direct the city elections officer, who is the city recorder, to submit to the county clerk a copy of this resolution, ballot title, and the explanatory statement, and any other information needed. That will be after the 10-day challenge period is over. The election will be by mail, and we're authorizing city manager, designee of the city recorder, or the authorized representative to take all necessary steps. And the last one is reimbursement. Section 6 says the city hereby declares its official intent pursuant to Treasury Regulations Section 1.150-2 to reimburse itself with proceeds of the bonds, which may be issued in one or more series for any expenditures incurred prior to the issuance of the bonds. Because what that means is, if the bond passes in May, it'll take several months to issue the bonds, but during that time, we'll start incurring expenses. We'll probably have the architect start working again. We'll have the project manager. And so this resolution says we intend to, any money that we expend before the issuance of the bond, we intend to reimburse ourselves. So that's an important element to put in this resolution. So staff recommend, and then there's Exhibit A, which is the ballot language and the summary. That is what will get challenged. Is what will get published for the 10-day notice. And then there's the explanatory statement. It's statement B, 500 words explanatory statement, which has been meticulously prepared and gone over several times. And then there's notice of receipt of ballot title. That way Mariah can certify that she got the ballot title and that she published it. So staff's recommending passage of the resolution. We'll take any questions the council may have.
Questions for staff? Councilor Schimmel? I'm just messing with you. Sorry. I don't see any questions for staff. Sorry. Okay, is there a motion?
I move to approve Resolution 2025-06.
I second.
Great. Resolution 2025-06 was moved by Council President Valenzuela and seconded by Councilor Martinez. Will the city manager please read it by title only?
Resolution 2025-06, calling a measure election to submit to the electors of the city of Forest Grove the question of contracting general obligation bonded indebtedness in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $29.5 million to finance a new police facility and other capital costs, declaring intent to reimburse expenditures and related matters.
Thank you. Okay, let's open it for discussion. I want to thank the police chiefs worked on this a lot, and so has Paul. I just want to thank city staff for their work on this. And then also, now the work pivots, just like kind of reaffirm that the work pivots to us, right? And that we really, this is a huge ask of our community, but it's also a huge ask for a huge need, right? We really do need to make these improvements. They really are, like, there's size issues, there's safety issues. And so, like any way we can be accessible to the community to explain why this is a good thing, a good bond, I think, we need to take all those opportunities. So I'll get off my soapbox with that. Okay, I'm going to do roll call vote. Mariah, will you start with, I don't know if I thought I mentioned, but I think we should switch the voting order. So if you want to start with someone else, that's great.
Councilor Schimmel?
Yes.
Councilor Falconer?
Yes.
Councilor Martinez?
Yes.
Councilor Marshall?
Yes.
Councilor Gustafson?
Yes.
Council President Valenzuela?
Yes.
Mayor Wenzel?
Yes. In a vote of 7-0, Resolution 2025-06 has been approved by the Forest Grove City Council. Thank you, Mariah. Okay, let's move on to council communication. We'll start with Councilor Marshall.
I have nothing to report, but I wanted to get feedback from you guys on this. I don't know if this is the place to bring it up to possibly review City Code 34.02, Section B,
What is it?
in regards to permits, fees, and charges for cost analysis. So we wouldn't have to do it every 5 years. We could kind of pick and choose when we would want to do it as far as fee structures.
Oh, for like recreation and youth sports?
Basically for all permits, but it encompasses the parks fees. And so
My initial is like, let's get some staff work. Like, I think we're gonna do some work sessions on the cost recovery fee study with parks, and I think let's get that done and see what we need to do after that. That would be that'd be my thing. But I don't know exactly what you're asking for.
it'd basically just be to review it. After speaking to Ann, the reason why we had to bring it up is because it has to be done every 5 years.
Uh-huh.
It hasn't been done in a long time, so that's why it was brought up by her for us to vote on it to get a cost analysis for it. And so if we were to amend it, change it, review it, whatever, just kind of go over it to see what we feel like we should do with it, if we should keep it the same. It hasn't been adjusted, and it was passed in 36 years ago. So it hasn't been reviewed since then. So
Do you want to add that to a list of things to look at?
Yeah, I think if there's a consensus with the council here, that was referenced. Councilor Marshall is referencing the code section that does say we're supposed to do a review every 5 years. We can certainly add that into a work session when talking about rates and fees and see if there's if that's something that the council wants to look at, right? Amending the city code, because right now there is that requirement.
that was it for me.
Okay, great. Thanks. We'll go with Councilor Martinez.
Okay, so I was at the Forest Grove, the fire district meeting last week. So they're doing open recruitment again. They've exhausted all the possible recruits that they had several months ago. Their team is back from California that went down to help with the firefighting down there, all safe and sound. The software that I was talking about earlier, there was the First Watch Initiative software. It was purchased by Washington County to monitor AMR, so that's what we will have access to. It will show department performance 90% of the time, so that way they can measure what their thresholds are and what they should be. Currently, we're at a 10-minute response time, including turnout and travel. So it's important that we have all that information. Our new engine should arrive in 2 to 3 months. And then we have truck 4, which is a ladder truck. It's a low-use truck. So then they're trying to decide, since it needs specialized training, do we get the training or do we get rid of the truck? So, and EMS and firefighting should be a priority for our community. That's it.
Okay, great. Thanks. Councilor Falconer.
Very short update from Historic Landmarks Board. They're seeking to do a windows and siding seminar. I believe they've landed on May. So this would be a seminar teaching people how to repair windows instead of replacing them. They are seeking to promote that maybe at the farmers market or something. They'll be conducting a legal training and possibly a mock design review hearing, which I think a number of the members were very excited about. And they've nominated former councilor Elena Ewing for the Stewart Award, and they are considering creating a lifetime award. And to be determined.
Can I ask a question about Historic Landmarks Board? Was there any talk, or can you bring back, like, for some council, like the guidelines for the historic downtown district? Like, they're supposed to be, I thought, working on that.
They did a lot of work on their work plan, and so I think that at the next meeting, they went through the work plan. They eliminated some things. That is definitely one of them that continues, but they didn't do any work on it. it was just the majority of the meeting was,
I just think that as like with all the things going on in the downtown area, like
Mhm.
again, if there's intersections where we can
yeah.
get
Yeah.
some stuff. Yeah.
No, that's definitely on the list. The majority of the meeting was spent on elections and also refining the work plan for the next year or two.
Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay, cool. Counselor Schimmel.
We had a couple of meetings early part of the month. So in CCE, they had a new member with a cool story. He was a guy who lived here, family and work sent him out, and then he returned home and eager to get back involved. So that was a cool story. Bill Clark.
Okay. Anyway.
And then a question for my colleagues is regarding the ATM topic. How how much influence have you had on subject? The timing is October, so.
It changes every year. So sometimes like the liaison will come to us. Like that hasn't happened in the last couple of years, but it used to be that the liaison would come and then we would give some ideas for ATM and then kind of give them a few to choose from. I mean, that's how it was done previous, right? Like in previous situations. I don't know if you want to do that again. Or how are they?
Or 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, so it's going to be in October. I think if they have some ideas too, they could give us, but we could give them ideas like what in June?
Sure.
So that way they can promote it. And
2040 vision is kind of the
probably going to be what it is, right?
All right, and then chamber, just a few notes. You know, they're pretty stable. Their revenue and membership are climbing. They had 30 people turning out for the Rise and Shine at the Habitat Restore. That was great. Claudia's joined the Latino Policy Council, so now we have another person in our community that's helping to shape those policies throughout the region. Spoke to her development incubator. One of the things they highlighted was this National Civics Bee that is in partnership with the school district, and it's geared to middle schoolers. So there's going to be a live round coming up in April at the district office. So I'll know more leading up to that and invite everyone. And then they have their gala coming up on March 8th. And I got an email from someone from the Sevenberry Trail Foundation. Is that something you're going to speak to, Jess?
I think we all got it.
Oh, did you?
We all got it.
Okay. All right.
Well, I mean,
good.
right?
Well, I hope somebody is able to attend.
Hey, I have it on my calendar. If I'm free, I'll go.
That's the February 26th.
My response was if I'm free, I'll go. But I mean, it
Okay,
just kind
good.
of depends.
I'm glad everyone.
I think everyone got. I mean, okay. Council President Valenzuela.
All right, so Wednesday, I'll have a meeting for the Library Commission, and on Thursday for the Policy Advisory Board. So I have nothing to report for the meeting.
Thank you.
From those groups.
Councilor Gustafson.
Let's see, I don't have a lot to report. You all know about the strategy building. So if there are the focus groups for the city club, what they'll be building, if you have people that you can think of that would be good representatives in those focus groups, send me the information so that we can add them to those focus groups, because you might have a different network than other people do. Other than that, I'll be going to Senator Wyden's town hall on Saturday, and the city club has approved a celebration for next year, the 2026 4th of July celebration. They will be hosting. They're going to also include Cornelius in that celebration. So they're going to partner with Cornelius and their city it's the 250th anniversary of the United States. So we're hoping that both cities can partner with that, and then we'll be partnering with the chamber and all of the heavy hitters, the veterans, for the celebration. It'll be held at Neil Armstrong like it's been in the past with fireworks, carnival. Is it over here? Is that Tom McCall?
Which one is it?
It's the one
that was
on
at
Gales
Pack.
Creek.
Yeah, that's Tom McCall.
Okay, I always get them mixed up.
Okay.
So Tom McCall, and yeah, it's going to be, old school American, event. So next year, not this year.
No, okay. Got it. Great, thank you.
That's it.
Okay, city manager report, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'll send out my city manager report tomorrow. I do apologize. It is a day late, so some of this will be repeat when you get the report tomorrow. The budget process is underway. We've sent out the CIP instructions or capital improvement program instructions to the staff. The budget instructions will go out on February 17th. This is all in preparation for the biennial budget. We do have some software things we need to work on, but we're doing that now. We are applying for the award for excellence from the League of Oregon Cities for the police sabbatical program. There was a recommendation that was brought to us, and good idea. This is a program that we now have a couple of years within the department. It's kind of the first of its kind in the state of Oregon. Really kind of checked all the boxes for that award. So the chief is working on that award. That's not going to happen for a while, but I just wanted to give the council an FYI. Congresswoman Bonamici is hosting a town hall meeting at Century High School Gym in Hillsborough on February 17th at 5:30.
5:30 for elected, 6, right?
Okay, I think it's actually 5 for electeds and then 5:30 for the town hall meeting. We can send it out to the council tomorrow, just so everybody has an FYI. So just a friendly reminder, State of the City Council interviews are scheduled for this week from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Councilors can stop into TVC-TV anytime this week to record interviews. The Economic Development Commission will be finishing its review of the building improvement grant applications this week on February 13th. Do expect a work session likely at the next meeting to review EDC's recommendations for the building improvement grants. That will be an urban renewal work session. We did get notification from ODOT that we are funded for a Safe Routes to School grant. This is approximately $1.4 million. It does need to be approved by the Oregon Transportation Commission. We are expecting that approval to go through soon. Sorry, I got to turn the page here. The Imagination Library, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, where your child can receive a free book. Registration is currently going on at the Forest Grove Library. So if you're interested in that program, please drop by the library. The library's construction projects are complete. We have a few finishing touches, but the teen partition and both restrooms are near completion. And then for light and power, you might see our crews around town. We are replacing numerous pre-1970 poles. Right now we're working in and around Pacific University. And soon we're going to be located on Vista Drive. This is just part of our standard maintenance. The other thing is we recently sold or in the process of selling some clean fuel credits. We reported earlier that the Clean Fuels Incentive Program, this is for the e-bikes and for the incentives for e-vehicles, that was temporarily on pause because we didn't have any additional clean fuel credits. We are going to be selling some of those credits and kind of refunding that program, if you will. So when that goes live, we'll make sure and do an announcement about that, but we are in the process of doing that. And then last but certainly not least, if you get out to States Park Nature Trail, the trail that connected the north and the south ends of the park is nearing completion, and that will create that path, whereas right now it's just kind of an open field and a little bit muddy. So if you get a chance to get out to States Park soon, that will be opening up. We'll have benches, interpretive signage. It's a good project. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
And we do have to make appointments for TVC TV.
Yeah. I was gonna mention that too. Like, please, you have to make appointments. It's not drop in. It's saying like it's available at those times, but you need to call them and make an appointment.
It needs to be scheduled. Sorry.
Actually,
Yeah.
not call even. I tried to call once. It's through email.
Okay.
We have the emails.
The email they sent.
Yeah, sorry if I gave the wrong impression, but they are scheduled
They're
interviews.
scheduled. Yeah, I was going to say, I was wondering that too. Thanks, Counselor Martinez. Okay, let me go. So a few things. I'll try to keep it short. Okay, so Sister City, we had a meeting. Counselor Martinez is the liaison, myself, Joyce, and Paul. So just trying to figure out. The adult delegation goes every other year, and so just and there's been a change in city staff since that. So we're trying to iron some things out. We did find the MOU document. There's definitely a concern about city staff workload. We kind of need to figure some stuff out because the MOU says some things are the chambers, but since I've been here a while, I think the issue was that we created the MOU with the chamber in 2020 about Sister City things, and then we didn't go for 2 years, right, because of COVID. And so we didn't really put when we create it, we didn't outline exactly whose responsibilities for what. So I think everyone has good intentions, but we definitely, both entities need to do some work on that.
And none of the Sister City members had the paperwork, so nobody knew what was going on. Really, I mean, they kind of had an idea, but nobody had the documentation back. So
we're just,
But
we're
now-
getting everything, we're getting the wheels back
Yes.
on. The wheels came off maybe, but the good news is it's still running. It's still working. So there's a tentative adult delegation scheduled to go over in July. I'm gonna say, do you want to do it? I'm fine. But so in July, and so I think the way it works is some community members will be invited to go. They'll pay their way, and then the city will send over 1 or 2 city staff, and then 1 counselor and the mayor. So if that's something, I don't know the process. I mean, if that's something you're interested in doing, the tentative dates are around July 1st, anywhere depending on flights, but we'd only be over there for about 5 days, but it would be the 1st through the 10th in that window of July, because there's a festival that they would like us to attend. So
I think it's on the 5th.
I think what we'll do is, if you're interested, email Jesse or myself, and then depending on how many people are interested, we'll see if we need to have a team meeting about how we decide who
I think
goes.
she was going to do an application. I know we had an application when I went a couple years ago.
Okay.
So I know a lot of that was somehow it got lost, but
yeah,
trying to work to get that.
Yeah, just kind of get some of those systems and things back put in place, because there was a change and it doesn't matter. Okay. So then Region 1 area transportation. There's a lot of new members. There's 7 new members, but that's not really the thing basically, the whole thing with transportation right now is funding, safety funding. How are we going to fund it? But so then they were doing this scoring of priority investment areas based on data, based on hotspot analytics, safety, equity, climate outcomes. And I was heated because they identified TV Highway from 217 to Cornelius. I'm like, wait, why did you stop in Cornelius? I mean, U Street intersection, usually I'm like, ugh. And then I felt bad because the question really only pertained to me, and it's a region thing, but I'm just like, how, finished TV Highway ends in Forest Grove. You're talking 1 mile, literally not even a mile. And they're like, well, these hotspots. I'm just like, no, but we have this intersection. But then Ryan from ODOT was like, we're going to address that intersection, Mayor Wenzel. But I was like, don't placate me. I just want to know how, why wouldn't you just say this whole road is, there's gaps in the sidewalk, there's car accidents, there's fatalities. Ay. Okay, but anyways, that was Region 1. So continuing with transportation, it's really just the transportation package that Oregon State Legislature is working on is really, we're hearing this in all of our transportation meetings, right? They need to do some sort of definite changes because the sustainability of our infrastructure is not going to keep up to what we're paying. So they're going to give us I think like a framework. Oh, I think they're going to release a framework February 14th, the end of this week, about what they're thinking. But they're pretty much thinking enhanced passenger registration, indexing gas and registration, tiered registration fees, so EVs would get more, delivery fees. The other thing they said is costing us is that we don't, in Oregon, we don't tax on vehicle purchases. And so that creates like a huge gap, like millions and millions of dollars, right, of revenue we don't get. So the main deal too is like no one likes their taxes being raised, but really what we're paying in registration fees and limited gas tax is not enough to deal with the infrastructure for transportation. So we'll know more in February, but it's really going to be like it's going to be a whole team effort to try to educate people of like why we need to make some of these changes. And I think, I'm pretty confident we're all trying to do what's the most equitable and fair approach. Speaking of like tax increases and different things, the TDT tax increased another 8%. That was roughly the same as last year. So that's a $12,000 fee to build a single family home. So there was a little discussion and just a lot more work of like figuring out, this is the problem. Like you rob from Peter to pay Paul. Like, so now it's less affordable to build houses because you're paying for the infrastructure on, transportation, but roads connect us. So I think that electeds have some hard work to do in terms of transportation and housing. Okay, Washington, we talked about this earlier in the work session. The chair plus mayor meeting was all about the governance for WCCLS and the levy. Things I'm really concerned about is that there's going to be additional cost to local libraries. That's going to definitely impact our budget and our library services. It's never fun to have a reduction in staff, and that system of changing to a centralized collection is going to be. But I'm just hesitant. But new things don't mean bad things, right? So it's really just planning ahead to make sure we continue to have the library services that we want and the hours we need. Okay, so then other things I want to just shout out is Wyden is doing a town. Wyden does not do elected, like meetings with electeds prior. So Merkley did 2 weeks ago when I met him in Tualatin. But so Wyden's is at Pointer Middle School at noon. Bonamici's Monday night. It's 5:30. I like double check 2 emails, Jesse. It's 5:30 for electeds and then 6 for the town hall. It's fine. It's like kind of fun for me to correct you, but I'm not trying to be rude about it. Okay. And then on Thursday, a few of us attended Pacific University State of the City, 175 years of providing education, and just like was so cool for me. Like, I think it's great to have a university in our town, but like just the wide breadth and like, when I said like cast this wide, long net, like there's so many cool things that Pacific students and Pacific programs do. So like, I think I know a lot, but I was like, oh my God, they do that too. And then all the performers, and it's just rich. It's a rich university, and we get it it's like literally the heart of our community. Like Forest Grove would not exist without Pacific, right? They were here before us. So anyways, that was real fun. Please schedule your TVC TV interviews and do them. It will make the state of the city good. And then tomorrow night, I will be at Vex for a fundraiser, and I want to beat the chief. The chief earned some money last month and donated it. My nonprofit I'm donating to is Unified Sports. Jill Carey / Jill Hurdle does a great job of getting a lot of volunteers to coach Unified Sports. So come to Vex, donate a lot of money, support local business, and I think that's all I got. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Boom. Thank you. Had to get a little plug for my fundraiser.